Is the world that never was and Quadratum connected? What's going on, guys? I'm Mystic Mal, and today's video is going to be about how Quadratum and the world that never was are connected. And before I get too deep into this, I want to tell y'all, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you share with your friends, as well as hit the notifications bell so you don't miss any of my Mystic content. May your heart be your guiding key. Let's grow this Mystic family. But to kick this off, we know that, the world that never was is this place that has huge skyscrapers and buildings, just like Quadratum. And we know that Master Xehanort knew about Quadratum, knew about the world of unreality, given their conversation between Master of Masters inside of the Remind DLC. We know that, Master Xehanort knows about these things, so it wouldn't be too far-fetched that Xehanort would probably make the world that never was in Quadratum's image, or maybe Quadratum is the world that never was. But I made a Venn diagram for y'all so we can get a full understanding of how it all works and the comparisons and differences, but I'll pull this up for you guys now. Okay, to start this off, we know for a fact that the differences between Quadratum and the world that never was is kind of non-existent, meaning there isn't much differences to start off with, but I will give differences just to make the Venn diagrams make sense and to furthermore my point. But for Quadratum, we know that it is Yzora's world, and that is the first difference. We know that Ysora is a character of unreality, and we know that it's non-existent. Moving on to the second difference, we know that the Master of Masters is an inhabitant of Quadratum, because we know he's hinted at Quadratum ever since the Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC, and he hinted at Quadratum within Kingdom Hearts Union Key. He moved on, that's where he disappeared to, would be Quadratum. Moving on to the third difference, Quadratum is referred to as unreality, meaning it's fake. It's a fictional world. And this is one plot point that makes me feel like the world that never was and Quadratum is connected. But let me move on to the differences of the world that never was and get to the similarities after this. So make sure you watch beginning to end to get a full understanding of where I'm coming from within this discussion / theory. We know for the world that never was has Kingdom Hearts. The heart in the sky, the heart of all people. That Kingdom Hearts that comes from Sealed Heartless that you've defeated with the Keyblade. There's many different plot points that makes you feel like there's a connection between Quadratum and the world that never was, not only inside of the secret movie of Kingdom Hearts 3 that connects to Kingdom Hearts 4. We see the Master of Masters stand on top of this skyscraper, going like this in the sky, making a box at the moon, and then forming a heart, meaning probably hinting at Kingdom Hearts. There's a connection there. And we know that there's Kingdom Hearts at the world that never was. But is there a possible Kingdom Hearts forming at Quadratum? Time will only tell. But moving on to the second difference, is that's the Organization 13's world. The Organization 13 inhabits there. Even though it is in a very big vacant state right now, as we know of, that to our knowledge, it's in a vacant state right now because we haven't been to the world that never was in a while since Dream Drop Distance, even though that was the sleeping world of the world that never was. That wasn't the world that never was. But moving on to difference number 3. It's referred to as non-existent, meaning it wasn't supposed to be in the first place. And that's one connection that I can make, that the world that never was and Quadratum are so much alike, but I'll explain that in the similarities right now. We know for a fact that they both have big skyscrapers and large buildings. We know this. That's one connection that we can connect to all day, every day about the world that never was and Quadratum. we know that they both have skyscrapers and large buildings, abnormally large, to the point where most buildings are a skyscraper inside of Quadratum and the world that never was. But moving on to the similarity number 2, they are not a part of the realm of light nor the realm of darkness. And that puts it in a state where it's like it can compare really well to Quadratum, because remember, it's non-existent, it's unreal, it's unreality, right? We know that it's not part of the realm of light nor darkness. That means it's right in between. It's right where the world that never was lies, and we know where Quadratum is as well, because we know that it's a world that's not of light nor darkness. That was explained by the Master of Masters inside of Kingdom Hearts Union Key. So things are just coming together here. It's crazy, right? I can't wait for Kingdom Hearts 4. But moving on to similarity number 3. We know that both worlds are very gloomy, and if not dark and kind of scary. The world that never was and Quadratum have that whole bluish, purple, dark gray type of thing going on. Like, that's the color palette of those worlds. And it's just so much similarities that it's kind of uncanny, right? But moving on to number 4, similarity. They both have hidden backstories and never before seen Kingdom Hearts content, meaning we don't know the origins of these places. We just know that's that, right? We just know that the world that never was is Xehanort's stomping ground, well, Xemnas' stomping ground, and we know that Quadratum is Yuzora's stomping ground. We know that there's many different similarities between the two because there's no origin. We don't know the backstory. We don't know where it started. You know, we hope to see that in Kingdom Hearts 4, but as of right now, we don't have much information about where it all started. Quadratum, where it came from, where it came to be. But moving on to number 5, this similarity is so like uncanny, right? Because it's somewhat hard to reach both locations. Remember, we have to go into Data, Twilight Town, and then go through a dark portal. Then we have to go through all types of trial and tribulation just to reach the world that never was, right? Like, it's not a place where you can just fly to it, and a lot of people argue saying, but yeah, on the world map, you can go straight to the world that never was. Canonically, we know that you have to go through Twilight Town, the real Twilight Town, then you have to go through Data Twilight Town, then you have to go through a dark portal, you have to go through and fight through the dark portal, fight a bunch of nobodies, just to get to the world that never was. That's how you know that the world that never was exists on a totally different plane as the regular worlds, as light and darkness. Because light and darkness are easy to go to, but the world that never was is hard to get to. And we know that Quadratum is hard to get to as well because it's not of light nor darkness. The world isn't connected. You know, it's not like the land of fairy tales where all the worlds were connected. And we know that it's not like Kingdom Hearts 2 or Kingdom Hearts 1 where the worlds were connected by intergalactic roads. We know that there's special ways to reach these places. We know that they are both unreal, unreality, fictional, as well as non-existent. They both represent being non-existent, unreal, right? And a lot of people will be like, hey, but aren't they isn't the world that never was more like relatively close to darkness? And I'll say no, because remember, they have nobodies there as well. Nobodies isn't necessarily bad, evil creatures. We know that nobodies is in the middle, not light nor darkness, right in the middle, twilight, dusk, dawn. We know that it's right in the middle. So we know that we know that Quadratum and the world that never was, a connection being there isn't too far-fetched. And that's what I'm shooting for, because in Kingdom Hearts 4, it's going to drop so much bombs and it's going to drop so much, so much knowledge to us, because stuff that's never before seen, and I am truthfully excited. And one thing this means for us is that means that the world that never was, maybe Xemnas and Xigbar, Lushu, built the world that never was in the image of Quadratum. Or we know that maybe that is like maybe Quadratum is like a sleeping world kind of, or maybe not even. maybe the world that never was is a sleeping world, right? And Quadratum is the unlocked version of the world that never was. And maybe the nobodies just took advantage and became inhabitants of the world that never was. But it's a huge possibility that it's Quadratum. But cutting into time, I had such a blast with this video. I'm having so much fun, like, theorizing about Kingdom Hearts 4 and stuff like that. This game has a very special spot in my heart, and it feels great to just debunk all of these plot points. It feels so good. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you comment if you agree or not, or even add on your point of views within this theory, right? So make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you share with your friends, as well as hit the notifications button so you don't miss any of my Mystic content. Peace.